101テック始まります。今日のテーマはググる時代の終わり。AI は考える力を奪うのか。検索して情報を探す時代から AI が答えを教えてくれる時代になりました。私も AI にかなり頼っています。でもふと思うんですよね。これって考える力が衰えちゃうんじゃないかと。では私たちはこれから何を学べばいいんでしょうか。さらに誰もが同じように AI を使えるとも限りません。チャット GPT だったりクロード、ジェミニなど進化するほど今コストもどんどん上がっています。高いお金を払える人だけが AI の恩恵を受けられる世界になってしまうんでしょうか。今日はそんな AI 時代の疑問を Google で20年検索の開発を率いた方で、今は教育分野のチーフテクノロジストを務めるベン・ゴメスさんに直球でぶつけます。教育現場でもこの問題は切実です。AI に宿題を任せていいのか、教師や親はどう向き合えばいいのか考える方も多いんじゃないでしょうか。今日のトピックは3つです。1つは Google から AI へ、思考力は守れるか。そして2つ目が AI 格差の現実味、知識は特権なのか。そして最後が AI 教師が登場、子どもたちは何を学ぶか。それではぜひ最後までご覧ください。Okay, thank you for your time today. Welcome to Japan. Yeah.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a wonderful place.
Yes. So you spent decades building Google search. How many years?
20 years.
20 years. Okay. You led Google search for 20 years. Search gave people access to information but still require people to think. But now AI can answer directly in a few seconds like Gemini does. So are we going to let AI to think on our behalf, or how are we protecting the ability to think?
I think it's a really interesting question. I think there are multiple components to it. First of all, I think AI is a much more complex tool that's able to use language in a very flexible way. So whereas in the past, I would say you got information in a passive way, you read something or you maybe watched a video. Today, you can interact with information in an active way, where you can question the information, you ask follow-ups in complex ways, you can get information at the level that you need, and then you can also begin to do things like do quizzes or on the information yourself, right? So it can become a much more active process than it was in the past, and so used properly, it can help you think much better than you could in the past. And so I think it's an extremely powerful tool in that way to enable people to think, to actually think and learn much more deeply than they could. So I think while it's important for us to remember that we have to use these tools though in an active way.
Right. But Google search has been forcing us to compare links or judge sources or decide what to trust. So I feel like AI often removes those process and just give a single answer. Some people use it that way, AI. So isn't there a risk that AI makes people feel informed without actually thinking?
I think whenever you receive information, you have to ask the question of what's the provenance of this? How does it come? Why should I believe this, right? And that's different in different contexts. When you read a book, you can read the book and accept what's there, or you can go through the references in the book to figure out like more deeply what is there. So you need to learn when you're reading a book or a paper to do that process. Likewise in search, you look at the sources of the sites. That same thing is true with AI. There are tools we provide like double check your answer that allow you to go and check the sources of of the information and go down to the direct sources and go down that chain to learn where the information is coming from. And that's a process that in any medium we have to learn how to do. And AI is a new medium, so it's something we have to learn to do in this medium. And in some cases, the answer may not be that critical. In other cases, you may need to do that process to make sure you're getting it exactly right.
I think there was an interesting MIT study last year where the ChatGPT uses showed weaker neural engagement and critical thinking than Google search users. I'm sure you're familiar with that study, but what was the reaction when you first saw that?
So, we have taken the approach that it's really important to develop AI such that it's good for learning. AI can be used for many purposes, but in the context of learning, we've always known that active learning is important, that a tutor can be really important to helping you learn. But what makes a good tutor? So we identified 4 or 5 factors, and the research teams went and built something called LearnLM, which optimized for those aspects of learning, managing cognitive load, making the process active, encouraging curiosity, making it be multimodal, all of these things that we know are good for learning. And then we built that into Gemini. And now we're building tools like guided learning on top of that to enable more learning to happen, and using what we know works in learning. And I think we're going to continue down that path in various different ways. Notebook LM is another example of that, where you find the sources, what you need to learn, and then you can convert it into a form that makes sense for you. You can convert it into a podcast so that you can listen to it. And we know that many students really like that, being able to listen to it. You can convert it into a set of slides or a video. You can convert it into an infographic, or you can do quizzing on it. You can do flashcards. So there are many ways in which to make learning active. It is how you use the tool and what tools you use that actually determine whether you're learning well.
Yeah. I think LLMs are such a general purpose tool, technology, and people get easily confused how to use it well. So that's why it depends on people, like how you use it and how you learn from it. So you mentioned the LearnLM or Notebook LM. So how are you thinking about the tools that can be actually useful for everyone and to take advantage of all the AI capabilities?
So I think everybody's learning to use these tools. I think in any tasks we are doing, one of the things to do is to understand what AI can do well in that task and what it can't. And so it depends very much on the task at hand and what you're trying to use it for, whether it might be for writing code or it might be for trying to learn something. And those are very different tasks, right? And the whole range of tasks in between, like preparing a report, understanding something. So for each of those tasks, I think there are tools that general purpose tools you can use. I find that in many contexts, if there's material, in the educational context, if there's material that you're trying to study, Notebook LM is a very useful tool because it can ground on that material, and then you can ask questions based on the material you're trying to learn, right? Not just in general, but your teacher, your school, whatever it is, gives you material. So grounding on that becomes very important, and Notebook LM then allows you to have a conversation just about that. So I think that's one of the ways which we're also doing we're providing a lot of materials for teacher training to use and so on. But we're also working with schools and with teachers to see how best they are using the tools so that we can provide the best tools for them.
I think that's not just true for students and teachers, but also that important for many people, a lot of people like me or like adults and the people workers. So how are you thinking about the tool, good tools for like everyone, those people to keep learning, and even after they graduated from college or schools?
Yeah. I think I'm constantly learning new things. I came here into Japan. I'm trying to understand. It is a busy, a huge city. I'm trying to understand why is it so nice. It's so nice to walk in the streets in Japan. It is, and part of it is the urban design. So I downloaded some documents. I created a notebook around it. And then I could begin to understand like all the different components that have gone into designing the city. And from that, I can go back to the documents and read more deeply. So it enabled me to create a structure around the topic. So you have to develop the ability to ask good questions. So that's the most important thing, I think, today. they develop the desire and then the capability to ask the good questions. And there are so many tools that you can then use to learn about that. So I learned about that. I was also interested in, Japan is one of the healthiest countries in the world. Why is that? I know the diet is really good, but
Right.
I downloaded again some documents, and then I used a notebook, and it brought up all of these other aspects of Japanese culture, about a sense of purpose, of ikigai, and these other things. I've heard about a bit of them, but it brought them all together in a nice way, and I began to form a structure of how do I think about why Japan is so successful in these ways.
Right. You mean we should learn how to ask good questions in the AI
And
age?
maintain the curiosity within us. The thing we have to breed in us is curiosity, inquiry, because we can learn so much today.
Yeah.
I was taking a trip across the country in the US. Coming to Japan is just ocean. But across the US, and I'm interested in geology. I took photographs of what I was seeing out of the plane window, and then I asked questions. What happened here a million years ago? What happened here 100 million years ago? What happened here a billion years ago? And I got a picture in my head in one trip across the country of how the craton, the part of the continent, had moved. It had crashed into Africa. It had formed mountains. Mountains had come down. Other things had crashed into it. New mountains had come up. They had come down. Yet new mountains came up, and California joins. And so I had a whole picture from that one trip across the country of the evolution of this mass of land. And it was just a beautiful experience that I could not have had otherwise. But I had to ask the questions. So the curiosity has to be there. And then there's the world is, as they say, the world is your oyster.
Right. I think that many people is talking about what we should learn in the AI age. And like, some people wonder if no computer science is needed anymore, or that everyone doesn't need to learn coding anymore or something. But NVIDIA's Jensen Huang said the human language is a new programming language. Or Google DeepMind CEO Demis Hassabis said that one of the most important skills for the next generation is learning how to learn. So what do you think we should learn on the road ahead?
So first of all, I do think this question of your own curiosity is going to be very important, because you can learn so much. I do think, but I also think that in all of these contexts, we can learn more broadly than we did. The mechanics of doing something are getting easier to do. But there are two aspects that remain very important. In the past, in order to be very effective, you were very specialized, more and more and more specialized, over time. I think in the future, it's going to be possible for you to learn not just one thing, but two or three things. So for instance, at work, what I can see is that the person who used to do design can also do some coding now. The person who can do coding can do some design. They can think about how to build the user interface, or how users are using it. So the skill sets you can do are broader. The concepts are still very important. You need to know how to judge things. It's very important to know how to identify a problem, how to think about what pieces are needed for the solution. The details, I think, more and more AI can help with. But the overall identifying the human problems is very important. Now, the second part of that is, in all of that, the human connections are critical. What is so important, whether it's in teaching, the connection between the teacher and the student. But if I'm identifying any problem in the world in general, often that problem is a problem that other people are struggling with, right? What is their actual problem? How do I get to know what their actual problem is? Then I can try and build a solution. But then does that solution work? Right? I need to go back to see, does it work? And all of those are tools that I think we need to build, because I think it's going to be possible for people to do far more than they ever did before.
Right.
And solve more problems. But to do that, you have to have a broader range of skills, as well as that ability to go from the problem all the way to the solution.
Right. I think technology should be served equally and fairly to people. And the frontier AI models like Gemini are becoming more powerful, but also more expensive because of the compute cost. So, but if better AI means better learning, writing, and explaining the decision making, are we creating a new knowledge gap and between people who can pay and who can not?
I think it's a very important question, and for us, we've tried to make all the tools that we have available either for free for learning, either for free or very cheaply around the world. And in Japan, in particular, there's widespread adoption. With Giga, was a very successful program. So Japan is at the leading edge of making devices and connectivity really universally available. And that's really wonderful to see. So there isn't that divide. I think the other aspect of it is that I think AI can actually help with the students who might have otherwise been struggling. There are other kinds of divides that are caused in learning, not just because of access to the models, because some students in a whole class of 40, 30 students, some students are ahead, some students are behind. How do you help those students who are behind? And today, I think with AI, you can begin to help those students who are behind to reduce that divide in how they are learning. Some of them may be unlocked by tools like podcasts, where they can hear something and then it resonates with them more. Others might be unlocked by other kinds of tools. You can also do diagnostics on what they're struggling with, help them with their misconceptions. So there are so many things that are possible with AI that can help reduce that divide that happens not just between one school and another, but within a classroom even.
Well, as we see what's going on in the AI industry, there are more and more users using AI and more compute costs. That's an inevitable fact, inevitable truth. So how do you think Google can provide technology sustainably to everyone with those high computes?
I think one aspect of this is also the efficiencies of the models are also going up. Just recently, we released a TPU that is 3.7 times more efficient than the previous version. We are seeing those kinds of improvements happen through the stack, in terms from basically how they use energy to all the way up to how efficient the models are. And you're seeing big improvements every year. And so I think this field is developing very rapidly. So the same thing that might have taken a much bigger model to solve a while back can now be done by a much smaller model. So I think there's a complex evolution here that will help make these things continue make these things be broadly available.
So do you think Google's learning and education AI tools are going to be available for free in the future?
I mean, most of our tools, we've been doing this for a while, and most of our tools have been available for free or at very low cost for a long time.
So,
and we don't. I don't anticipate that changing. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I want to talk about how education will change with AI, and I have a simple question: what should students learn? What should kids learn as AI advances?
I think that first of all, they have to learn what the school teaches them, right? And what the school has them learn.
I think what school teaches will
change in time.
Yeah.
But I think what the core value I think that students have to develop is curiosity and inquiry. That desire, the desire to actually explore something. And so I think that aspect is developed in the school system based on how students learn, with projects, with interaction with the teacher, and so on. So I think there's a lot of things that students will be able to learn in the future that would been harder for them to do in the past, right? Like at a very young age, you can begin to write code now because it's in English. So I think the process of changing what students have to learn will take some time, and evolution with the educational system. We are technologists, so we're working with educational systems to see how that evolves. I think in the short term, it's helping the students learn their current materials. In the longer term, I think it's helping them learn the concepts more than the mechanics. When the calculator came, like adding two numbers, you still learned, but it was not the most important thing in arithmetic, right? You began to learn more concepts. In math, you began to learn more math. So that same process, I believe, will happen in education, but it will take a little bit of time for the curricula and all to evolve to help students do more and learn more because of the tools that are available.
Right. Where does the mastering the concept, as you said, lead to? Where is the kids going to well-paid job or the prestigious colleges or?
I can't predict all the details of the future, and it varies from place to place. But in the end of the day, we provide value when we can solve a problem for somebody else, right? And I think with AI, we can identify and solve many more problems than we could before. So students learning how to identify problems and how to solve them, no matter what field they're in, whether they're in medicine or in engineering or in any other kind of, or in economics or whatever, any field, identifying the problem becomes really important. The concepts enable you to figure out how to go about solving the problem with the tools that you have. So that is, I think, the process that I think unlocks value. The form of the value will change, right? The nature of jobs and all may change, but the value comes if you can solve a problem for somebody.
Right. And I understand that you visited some schools here in Japan. And what did you think like Japanese schools should have in mind when incorporating AI into education?
I was actually very impressed with the schools here. I think in many places, some schools are ahead and some schools are not adopting technology. It's very varied. Whereas in Japan, because the Giga project, it's widely adopted, and there's been a lot of training of the teachers and so on. So it's very interesting to see how well the teachers are making use of technology in the classroom. So I do think that there is, because of the nature of how Japan is going about this, it is very promising. And Japan has a lot of openness to technology. Some places are less so.
Like compared to the US or?
It varies from place to place. Sometimes it's a very local phenomenon. In Japan, it's at the whole level of the country.
Okay. We have interviewed schools that are already adopting AI in the classroom, and some students, they say they have become more active and curious in their learning. And at the same time, teachers say they need stronger AI literacy or the careful prompt design to guide students properly. So what separates good AI use and bad AI use in schools?
It goes back to how we learn. I think for people to learn well, there is this notion of a zone of proximal development. And so if something is too easy, you don't learn. If something is too hard, you also don't learn, you give up. So staying in that zone is really important. So students trying is very important, and then getting help when they can't. Both matter. Right? So I think from my perspective, whatever tools we can provide that help the teachers keep the students engaged with the material is the most important thing.
So engagement is really important.
Engagement with the material so that they're active. The students are in an active process, trying to engage with the material. They're not passively absorbing it and not giving up.
But on the other hand, from the student's perspective, what do you think separates students who use AI well or who doesn't?
So again, I think it is developing curiosity and then trying. If you just get answers, you're not using it well. Right. If you try and then get answers, then I think you're learning more. So there's been a lot of history of study of this kind of process. But again, the mind, we have an amazing brain, and it learns to predict, it learns from examples and so on. But to engage it, the mind has to try. And then that process begins, the process of learning begins.
Right. But I think AI can be really a personalized tutor sort of thing. So I think that maybe everyone can learn from each individualized, personalized tutor of AI. Maybe we don't need teachers anymore, we don't need classrooms anymore. So what's your take on that?
No, I think teachers are more important than ever. My feeling, and there's psychological and other research that shows this, is that people learn because of other people. They don't learn because of the book. They learn because of a person. And that's something that's built deep into us as a species. Other species, even other great apes, don't have this. Like, there's lots of similarities in how we are with other, but this is one in which we're very different. There are experiments you can even do with a young chimpanzee and a young human. The human will copy what another human does. The chimpanzee will sometimes do a better job but not copy. So we are tuned to actually react and relate to another human being. And so why we learn is because of people. And the most important person, parents matter, of course, friends matter, but the most important person is the teacher. And so the role of the teacher is centrally providing that motivation to the student, understanding. I think of it as unlocking a student. Like some students sometimes, they suddenly begin to want to learn. What happens there? It's almost always a person. People never said, oh, I read this book and now I want to learn. They said, this teacher, they cared about me.
Right.
They saw me, they heard me, and they helped me. And something of that brings out the desire to learn. I was very fortunate, my mother was a teacher. And so she would ask us questions. She was a geography teacher. She would ask, when you went to a place, like, how do you think this landscape happened? And, we didn't know, there were no books, but we had to guess.
Right.
And then she'd talk to us about it. It was not part of school necessarily, but was that kind of curiosity, that kind of unlock came from that connection. Right. And that's what a teacher, and I had a chemistry teacher in school who had that same connection. He would encourage us all to come into the lab and during lunchtime and try experiments, and then he'd see what we did.
Yeah.
The sense of that person who cares is really important. That's what the teacher provides. In addition, of course, to the pedagogy and everything else, but that's that human connection.
Right. In terms of incorporating digital devices and AI into schools, I think the U.S. is ahead of the other countries. So I think that there are also issues or challenges you see more than other countries. So what are you seeing right now? And I think that some schools are started to ban the Chromebooks and the digital devices to avoid distraction of the students. So what do you think about that?
So I think the US system is very different than almost every other system in the world. It's very local. So there are lots of different things happening in different places. I think in general, these tools need to be used properly in the classroom in order to further that process of the students staying engaged with the material. Like I said, that zone of proximal development. And that's very important. So I think these tools are amazing tools for that. And we're providing controls. So we have something in Chromebooks called class tools, where the teacher can say, you're only on this tab, on this site for this period of time. And that allows the teacher to control exactly what the student is doing in Chromebooks. So we are trying to provide the teachers in the schools with all the tools that they need to enable the teacher to do what they want to do.
Right. I have the last question. And so as AI becomes more common in education, and what do you think the future of classroom will look like, and what do you see about the future role of students, teachers, and parents, and also what do you expect Google to do in those environments?
So it's a broad question.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things I've seen already in some classrooms is that what teachers come into the profession to do is to interact with the students. But quite often in the past, it was standing in front of a classroom and talking to 30 students, 40 students. What I'm seeing now when this works is that the students can begin to interact with the tools, and the teacher can interact with the students. And so what I see in some cases is the teacher being able to walk around the class interacting with groups of students who are working together on something. And I think that is it brings up many different things, right? The tool can be personalized to those students. It can also enable collaboration between them working together. And it also enables the connection between the teacher and the students, because that's what the students really value. And so I think the future, I hope, is more of that. More time for the teacher. First of all, we said the two or three different ways in which AI is helpful. One of them is saving the teacher time. So we've done studies that show that in Ireland, at least, teachers save 10 hours a week. We hope that gives them a bit more time to spend on thinking about the schools, the classroom, the classroom interactions. But the other part of it is this ability to be present in the classroom and hearing from all the students in the classroom. We were talking to a school superintendent yesterday, and he was saying, in the past, some students participated. But with technology in the classroom, a lot more of all the students can participate, and the teacher can see how they're participating through the use of technology. So my hope is that what it enables is not just the student in the front of the class putting their hand up, but every student being included in that process of learning.
Right. So what does Google want to do?
So we want to work with teachers to provide the tools that enable that. We've provided tools like Notebook LM. We've provided the suite of these collaborative editors and so on that I see are used widely in classrooms so that students can work together. And we want to continue to provide things like guided learning and these other tools that unlock that process of learning by enabling students to reach the information they need in the way that they can receive it.
Is that how you secure the future generation of Google users?
I think AI is here in many different ways. It's going to be the future of how people work and so on. And Google, we provide products for information, and those products for information are often used for learning. We're here to make sure that learning is good, that learning happens well. And so that has been our mission and what we really care about, that we actually enable the best learning to happen in students and that in schools, and that happens if we can work with the teachers to actually enable the tools that they need. And that is a mission as we see it.
Right. Okay. Great. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.